Joe Marino on the line right now, councilman in the city of Utica. You know, these things that we see happen, it's so close. New York City is so close, right?
Sure.
It worries all of us, right?
Well, I mean, what my wife always says is, maybe one day they're going to try to hit a smaller city target just because it'll be a little easier. I mean, what you heard from the CNN anchor, I think, was, this is the worst thing that's happened in New York since 9/11. That's really easy to say because the police department's done such a terrific job there.
Yeah.
And nothing's happened. So to have this, which thank God no one got killed, I guess you could say that if you want to split hairs. But yeah, around here we got to be vigilant. I mean, there's a place that's completely 100% safe, and thank God we got one of the best police departments in the country. So
yeah.
We got to stay vigilant. That's for sure.
All right, I have a bad connection on you, so once it's good, just don't move. Talking to Joe Marino from Utica Common Council. You guys had the council I talk about here had quite a successful week, really handling the mayor with a couple of losses, if you will, on the issue of the asphalt plant and on that issue involving paving all the streets in Utica. So let's get to the paving part afterwards, but let's start with the asphalt plant. Sure. Not for Utica, not the right place, but is there a place in Utica?
Well, you certainly hope so. I mean, and first of all, I don't, necessarily think of it. And when I went home, I didn't think that the council beat the mayor. I think that the people, beat the city. Those two things, both items, really had to do with listening to the people, right? I mean, one was it had to do with the referendum that we put out for the paving of the streets, and that was to get the voice of the people. No one's trying to push it on them. We just want to see what they think. And, to have a veto come down was a little bit shocking. And then this thing, when we came in, we had no idea really what it was. We had to give it some time to sit and get our information and talk to the people, which was my biggest concern from the beginning, that no one was talking to anyone in that area, the Rozier guy next door. But more importantly than that, it was the restaurant. I mean, you got people sitting outside. You'd think that conversation would have been had, and it wasn't. But that's what you heard at that council meeting. There were 75 or so people that came to speak against the proposal, and 0 for.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much that 75 is an overwhelming number. There's 60,000 people in the city, but there were 0 people that came in support of it. So that was an overwhelming response. And that's our job. Our job is to listen to the people.
I do think that the fire chief, Chief Brooks, coming out and really giving an emotional plea about the toxins that can be put into the air and about waterways and pollution and that sort of thing. I thought that was pretty big, and because going into this, and I don't know, what happened, who changed their mind, but going in, it seemed like this thing was going to fly. It didn't seem like that you guys, the council, was going to vote this down.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people, like myself included, that were, teetering on the fence. It's not my district, so to speak, so I didn't hear from those people endlessly like, say, Samantha Claus-Motesta did. But you're right, the chief really did give an impassioned speech. But more importantly for me, because he was a big deciding factor for me, more importantly for me, he gave a professional speech. I mean, the guy is the guy that deals with hazmat issues in the area. So if we're going to listen to someone, who better than the professional in terms of those areas?
Joe Marino, did you change your mind on the last day?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I didn't have a clue. When it said in the paper, I know it seemed like, I think you called me Tiptoe Joe at one point.
I might have,
because no, but it was fair. It was really fair. I didn't mean to be that way, but I had no idea what I was doing. I knew that the area was industrial, right? So I seen the pros of that. I knew that if we had this in that area, that it wouldn't have been overwhelming up until the point when I had the information that I had. And then I heard overwhelming evidence that it would have been. One of the biggest things that I got besides the chief was the fact that there was going to be 200 heavy trucks going up and down those roads. To say that there was smell, I got that. I understood it from the beginning. I didn't think that it wouldn't smell. Did I think it was toxic? That I wasn't sure of. I'm not an EPA expert.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem I had was 200 heavy trucks going up and down those roads. When you hear Sam from Babe say that they've got a traffic problem just with Dunkin' Donuts pulling trucks in and out, and then to add 200 more, that was a really, really big factor for me.
We spoke with the mayor last Friday, and he said, listen, I hear everybody coming out and saying no, 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 but I don't hear any solutions. So I challenge the council to come up with another location where this could go in Utica, and let's bring it on. I mean, that was the mayor's invite. So what do you think? Do you think there's a possibility, maybe something over on, I don't know, over there near Charlestown? I mean, what could get it inside Utica? And would you be okay with that if it were in the city boundaries?
Yeah, I would be okay with it being in the city boundaries if the area was right, if the area could accept it. I mean, physically can accept that kind of plant. But, to that, I really say that's not our job. Our job isn't to sell land in the city. That's URA's job and the mayor's job. When you say something like that, it's very easy to say, but that's what we did with the paving idea. The paving idea, the mayor came out with this proposal that repaired roads, didn't pave roads, but it repaired roads. And we said as a council, look, we can control the city streets as a council. Let's not just say no to something. Let's offer a different alternative. And when we did, it got vetoed. So I don't know necessarily that, anyone's that willing to accept our proposals.
Paving all the streets in the city of Utica. I'm going to ask you with a question.
Yeah, just I'm paraphrasing.
And just wait a minute because you and I played softball together this year. You're not going to stab me in the back, are you?
No, not at all.
Metaphorically, possibly. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what this question entails. Go ahead.
No, I'm paraphrasing here, and I'm going to use round numbers because I don't have it right in front of me. When the mayor vetoed that plan, he said roughly you guys were talking about a $10 a year increase, I think, for the average homeowner, and it was over the course of 15 years. He said the council basically didn't understand that there were much more costs involved in this project, and it would extend beyond 15 years. I'm not asking you to explain what he meant by that, but what is your understanding of what this paving will cost the city of Utica when voters go to cast a ballot on it in November?
Yeah, well, two things. And first, I'll give you the factual numbers, and I'll be brief. We have in the city of Utica, when we need $260,000, that means exactly 1% in a tax increase. That's a fact. Based on our numbers, 260 equals 1%. What this particular plan is, if in the event we need to borrow for the other $2.5 million that we need, we have $2.5 million that we have available to us. We need another $2.5 million to get to the 5. To borrow the $2.5 million would cost $200,000. $200,000 for us is 0.74% on a tax increase based on 200 divided by 260. That's $10 per average assessed home. That's a fact. You can't argue that. I know what the veto message said. I don't care. You cannot argue with the fact. That's why I got into accounting. 2 plus 2 is 4 in Bangladesh, and it's 4 on Bleecker Street. You can't argue those numbers. So I don't, the veto message I can't even comment on because those numbers are just black and white. So that's, the first part about it. The second thing is, if anything, that I've kind of gotten my hands around in the city are the numbers. I know pretty much where we are all the time. I know the council spends a lot of time with this thing. We've, tried to hold the budget line as hard as we could. But, that was the idea when we talk about bringing these numbers out. If you don't like the proposal, let's suppose you're a council member that voted against or a mayor that vetoed it, don't take the will away from the people. Go tell them why it's a terrible plan. I'm going to go out there and tell people why I think it's a good plan. I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing that. But don't veto the idea. Don't tell people you're not allowed to speak on it. If you think that there's an alternative idea or that the money isn't there or whatever you think, go out and tell people. Have some confidence in your speech that'll go there.
Joe, are you saying that every year for 15 years, taxes will increase at least 1.74%, or am I wrong on that?
No, 0.74. But yeah, what I'm saying is we have a 2% tax cap that we're levied with by the governor.
Right.
I'm saying let's take 3/4 of that. I'll give you the other 1.26. Do what you want with it. Talk about raises, talk about anything you'd like. 1.26% of the 2% cap that we have, do what you have to do with it. 0.74, let's devote it to infrastructure. We haven't done a thing with infrastructure in decades. And then this is a proposal that could pave every road over 15 years. And even that, we understand isn't ideal. I'd like them to be done every 5 years.
Well, you talk about infrastructure. Roads are certainly a problem, but probably not the most important problem. You're dealing with sewer lines, you're dealing with water lines that over the course of the next 15 or 20 years, I believe is going to be our biggest problem, especially for municipalities in the Northeast.
Well, then that's another thing that we're not communicating as a city well, is the fact that we are doing our sewer lines right now. We're under what I refer to as a pre-consent order from the federal government. We have to separate our sanitary and storm lines so we can, have two different pipes going instead of one. Obviously, that kind of water and rainwater mixing is not good. We're doing that right now. We're spending millions of dollars under a sewer fund that's doing that. So first thing that we have to do with this proposal is we got to make sure we know which lines they're doing next. So we don't throw good money after bad, go dig up a road, and 5 minutes later the sewer department comes in and does that.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, the sewer lines and underneath is a very big problem, but we're on path doing that as we speak.
All right, Andrew, quickly.
Yes, is that, now, just to clarify, that's $10 the first year and then $10 each additional year, so 10, 20, 30, or is it just...
Yeah, you're talking about if, and Andrew, the idea is that we're looking to increase revenue so we don't have to garner this $200,000 from the people. If in the event that we do, you're talking about $144 over 15 years. It would be $10 every year over 15 years. But I'm extremely confident that we'll come up with an idea that gives us an extra $200,000. And one of those ideas, in fact, is sitting on, the administration's desk right now. The fire department has come up with a proposal to do non-emergency transport. Right now we do emergency transport with our ambulance service. We have a proposal to do non-emergency transport to carry patients to and from hospitals and things like that. That could bring in the numbers that we were given by the mayor's office, and those are his numbers provided, $600,000 a year at max. I mean, $300,000 to $600,000 a year. You put that plan into place, you don't have to take a dime from people, and it's just there.
I do have to ask one final question, though, on the paving.
Sure.
So we live, although I got to tell you, the last few years have been pretty mild, and word is we're going to have potentially another mild winter. But we live in an area with heaving, cold temperatures. The temperatures go up, they go down, heaving. I got to tell you, if a road is not paved in 15 years, it's going to be a disaster.
No question.
Don't you feel, though, that 15 years to pave all the streets in the city of Utica in 15 years, don't you feel that that timeline is way too long?
I do. I absolutely do. I feel it's way too long.
By the time you get 5 years in, the road that you just paved 5 years before is probably going to need to be paved again.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. The idea is to make sure that we have a plan for every road over 15 years. So this way, if you live on, the Parkway, or if you live on Schoolcraft Road, for instance, with 12 houses on it, then you're still going to have an idea of when your road is going to be paved fully. The other part is to make sure that we have money in reserves for repairs, for heaving, or for for digging up with the utility companies. So it's not like we're going to look at your road, pave it, and then 15 years later say take it easy for 15 years, and then say we're not going to touch it again. We're going to have money for repairs. We're going to have money for all those kind of unforeseen circumstances. So 15 years in and of itself, of course. I mean, we're crossing our fingers and praying
I think 15,
that these roads last as long as they could.
15 years works great for a place like Dallas, but a 15-year timeline for upstate New York. However, the fact is there are people
we're on a 55 years.
Right, there are people that haven't had their streets paved in 50 years. So
that's right. So
think about
that's the idea.
Think about that.
We can't just pave a road and take it easy for 15 years. I mean, that's not going to be what we're talking about here. But we'd like to do it every 5 years, but you're talking about tripling the money.
Yeah. Okay.
It's something that we can afford. It's something that's reasonable right now, and we're under the financial circumstances that we can really go forward with a 15-year plan. It's a good bet if we do incur it. So that it's a good plan. Look forward to talking to the people about it for the next few months.
For the next 15 years.
Next 15 years.
All right, Joe. Listen, progress comes incrementally, they say, and I appreciate your time.
We're trying, Bill.
Yep.
Yeah, we're trying. Thanks so much, guys.
All right, Joe. Thanks.